following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
All right, what's up, everybody? It is finally Friday. It is the last Friday of June. It is June 30th. We want to welcome you to tonight's broadcast. I am your host, Ricky Scaprell, the founder and the voice of End Time Headlines, and this is going to be another Viewpoint segment. Right now, I want to welcome all of our new viewers. Listen, everybody, we want to welcome our Rumble live audience that will be watching this. We are now streaming live to Rumble. We did this for the first time a couple days ago, and it was a success, and it was great, and it's good to have so many different people from different platforms. So we are live now here on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube, and of course our website, our main app. We want to welcome everybody to the broadcast, and of course you guys that will be watching this by the rebroadcast as well. We welcome you as well. Listen, if you're new, let us know in the comments section below that you're new or this is your first time joining us and where you guys are joining us from. So tonight, I want to talk about, there's a lot of stuff going on and dealing with the changes in the earth. Now, of course, the mainstream media will use their favorite term is, ready, here it goes, climate change. But I want to show you a different angle tonight from the Bible. I want to show you how the entire earth itself, according to the revelation given by the Apostle Paul in the book of Romans chapter 8, he talks about the earth itself and creation. The creation itself is groaning with birth pangs for its full redemption. We're going to show you this in Scripture in just a second. And we're going to give you a lot of headlines tonight that all fall into this. And some of the stuff is just crazy, but I want to remove the political aspect to this, because a lot of this, that's why I don't like using the term climate change, because it's so politicized. So we're going to bring us from a biblical angle, biblical perspective. So let's go to Romans 8. We'll go there first. I'm going to show you some scripture here. This is Romans 8:18. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time or present age, depending on what translation you use, are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us, future tense. For the earnest expectation of the creation. Now he's talking about creation itself. Eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. Now this term sons of God here is not referring to angels. Most of the time in the Bible, when it refers to sons of God, it's referring to the angels. This was used in Job chapter 1, sons of God, B'nai Elohim. In this context, he's talking about the redeemed ones, those of us who are born again, that we will be revealed in the time of the end with Christ when he comes back and makes all things new, the revealing of the sons of God. Now look, then he shifts gears and goes to creation again. Verse 20, for the creation was subjected to fertility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope. Because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. Verse 22, for we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs together until now. Not only that, but we also, now he shifts gears again and goes to us, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, we ourselves groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our body. So here he goes back and forth from the creation to the sons and daughters of the Most High. And he talks about the thing that we both have in common is both the creation and the believers are both eagerly in anticipation and in want and waiting for the redemption, for the new regeneration, for the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, as he will make all things new when he comes back as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and the new heaven and new earth will be established. And when this happens, my friend, according to the scriptures, the curse will be removed from creation. Now, what are you talking about? All of creation fell under a curse when Adam and Eve partook of the forbidden fruit and disobeyed the word of the Lord. The curse on creation can be understood as the disruption of the harmonious relationship that existed prior to the fall of Adam. as a direct consequence of this, the natural order of creation was impacted. The Bible describes some of these effects if you go all the way back to Genesis chapter 3, where in which it states that the ground itself would be cursed. Adam would have to toil and struggle by the sweat of his brow. And even Eve and all of women would experience pain and anguish of childbirth. This was the result of the curse, the disobedience. A more in-depth understanding of this can be found after the fall, when God pronounced a curse on the ground, saying to Adam, "Cursed is the ground because of you." Again, painful toil, you will eat from it all the days of your life, Genesis 3:17. This suggests that cultivating the land and producing food would become more difficult, requiring increased effort and toil. So we can thank old Grandpa Adam for that. In this same verse, God also mentions thorns and thistles that would now be developed. It indicates an increase in undesirable plants that would impede agricultural productivity and necessitate greater labor. Also, the animal kingdom in itself did not prey upon one another until after the fall. Now, the good news is when the Lord comes back and restores all things in order, then we see what we read about in Isaiah chapter 65, verse 25, where it talks about the wolf will then lie with the lamb, and the leopard will lie with the goat, and the calf with the lion, and the yearling together, and a little child will lead them. In other words, God is saying he's going to restore the harmonious relationship that once was. So, now, where am I going with this today? How are we going to incorporate this into our headlines today and tackling what we're seeing on these global earth changes that we're experiencing? Well, again, I believe another clue that Paul gave us in Romans chapter 8 was he said the changes that we'd see, the impact that we would see directly on creation itself would be likened unto birth pangs. As creation is eagerly waiting for its redemption, it's like travail and birth pangs in a woman. Now, again, this concept of birth pangs is used in the Bible and many times used metaphorically to describe a process of anticipation, struggle, and eventual prophetic fulfillment. We can understand the general process of birth pangs in terms of progression and intensity when we look at the natural order of a woman's birth. For example, there's initial signs. Just as birth pangs begin with subtle indications that labor is approaching, there will be initial signs or indicators of significant change or the imminent arrival of something new. These signs can include events, circumstances, or shifts in the world and creation itself to point to the soon return of Christ. Then we move on to the increasing frequency and intensity of the birth pangs. This, as labor progresses, contractions become more frequent. They become more intense, and this represents a period of increased intensity where the signs of the coming of the Lord, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, become more pronounced and occur more frequently. Then we move into what's called transition. Transition is the final stage of labor before the actual birthing takes place. It is marked by the most intense and powerful contractions of the entire process. This transition phase of birth pangs could represent a climax or critical period of upheaval, calamity, disasters, and everything that Christ spoke of when he told us to watch for this. And then this will usher in the birthing, which will be the manifestation of the Son of Man, the Son of God. Come on, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords out of heaven. So, we could see all this, guys, in Matthew 24, verse 8, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. All these scriptures talk about birth pangs and travail. They all have the same connotation. So it's safe to say, or suffice to say, that just as a pregnant woman is about to give birth and cries out in her pain, so we now see creation. will begin to manifest these birth pangs through what we would call natural disasters, earth changes, upheaval, unusual activity, unprecedented activity, record breaking, all this thing. I believe, listen, and we're talking about earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, monsoons, flooding, fires, lightning strikes, severe thunderstorms, hail that we've not seen. And listen, we get over into the book of Revelation. Keep all this in mind. We're getting ready to show you some headlines. Just hang on for a second. When we get over into the book of Revelation, it talks about 100-pound hailstones from heaven. It talks about scorching heat that will burn men upon the earth. This is all in the book of Revelation. It talks about earthquakes so powerful that it's not been seen in history, that will shake the entire planet, entire globe. And consequently, these are taking place preceding the coming of the Lord. So so when we start seeing headlines like I'm about to show you today, this should not catch us off guard at all. As sons of God, not the Son of God, but children of God. I want to preface that by saying children, because people get bent out of shape because they think that you're somehow implying that we're little gods. I'm not saying that. Us as sons and daughters of God, and I've said that because Romans 8, Paul used that term. We as the children of God, we should know this now. We should be equipped and have the foreknowledge of understanding of this. So when we see crazy things like I'm about to show you, it should not make you fearful, but it should inform you and it should get you excited, because Luke 21:28, Jesus said, when you begin to see all these things coming to pass, look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption is drawing near. So now, since we built that foundation, let's get into some of these crazy headlines. Here's one. For example, there's the entire state of Florida has been put under a malaria alert. Yes, not West Nile virus, malaria. According to the report, 4 people in Sarasota, Florida have fallen ill with malaria. This is crazy. And the Florida Department of Health has issued an entire statewide mosquito-borne illness alert. The department said this week that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control had issued an alert after the Florida cases and one case in Texas are the first instances of locally transmitted malaria in the U.S. since 2003. All right, so check this out.
Monday, the Florida Department of Health issued a statewide mosquito-borne illness advisory after confirming more cases of malaria. As it stands right now, a total of 4 cases have been confirmed in Sarasota County.
It truly is very rare, because that means that the mosquitoes in that area had fed on a person that had malaria, and then the parasite developed inside the mosquito in order for it to pass it to another human being.
State health officials say malaria is spread in Florida through Anopheles mosquitoes that carry the Plasmodium vivax parasite. Only Anopheles mosquitoes can transmit malaria, and they must have been infected through a previous blood meal taken from an infected person. The parasite can then spread to humans through bites from infected mosquitoes. As Sandra Fisher Granger with the Florida Mosquito Control Association explains, malaria is a relapse fever, meaning it can come and go.
The parasite stays inside of the body, and when it becomes active again, that's when you start to have symptoms again. And so you may initially experience, the fever and the chills and that sort of thing, and then you may be fine for a while, and then it comes back and you go through it again.
Common symptoms of malaria include a fever and flu-like illness, including shaking chills, headaches, muscle aches, tiredness, nausea, and vomiting. The DOH says anyone in Sarasota County experiencing these symptoms should seek immediate medical attention. As of right now, the state says aerial and ground mosquito spraying will continue in the infected areas to reduce the risk of further transmission.
So again, guys, just absolutely crazy. Now, of course, this story has got a lot of chatter, and the reason being is because it has sparked a lot of online chatter about conspiracy theories centered around this by an individual with the initials BG. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's read on a little bit of this article. This is from Newsweek. I want to read a little bit of this article here. A very popular, and I'm using some different terms here, guys, because I want to use wisdom. A very popular computer founder with the initials BG is being blamed by some for sudden malaria cases reported in the U.S. for the first time in 2 decades. The CDC and Prevention said Monday that at least 5 cases, again, 4 in Florida and 1 in Texas, were acquired within the U.S. and have been reported in the past 2 months. These cases represent the first time that locally acquired mosquito-borne malaria has occurred nationwide since 2003. So it's like 20 years ago in Palm Beach County, Florida. The CDC said that the 4 Florida cases occurred within close geographic proximity and all have been identified and remain actively surveilled. So we'll go down here because we've already heard a little bit about this. I want to get down here to the part of what we're discussing here with this article. So let me get this straight. One Twitter user wrote, BG has been releasing GMO mosquitoes in Florida and Texas, and now Florida and Texas for the first time in 20 years have mosquitoes that give people malaria. Is that right? This was tweeted by Luke Radowski, and you can see here if you guys are watching a visual of this. This is from his Twitter post. The tweet was followed by a community note citing the CDC and Environmental Protection Agency, which evaluated the potential risk of releasing GM, that's genetically modified mosquitoes, into communities and determined that there is, quote, no risk to people, animals, or the environment. That's why we didn't post this, by the way, guys, because if we would have posted this on our main website, I'm sure the arbitrators of truth, the fact checkers, would be quick to come out and fact check it. That's why we have to use wisdom here. The reference to genetically modified mosquitoes likely harkens back to a video clip that went viral in March, purportedly showing a mosquito with a serial number on its body that has been released as a part of an experiment funded by a certain individual by the initials of BG and his wife, and they have a foundation.
Inside boxes like these on the Florida Keys, a possible key to what scientists hope will slow an invasive and dangerous mosquito species. They're called Aedes aegypti and are known to carry diseases like Zika, dengue, and yellow fever, the females spreading infection with their bites.
In the Keys, they make up just about 4% of the mosquito population, but are responsible for virtually all of the mosquito-borne disease transmission to humans.
The potential solution starts at Oxitec's lab, where tiny eggs are injected with a modified DNA strain, ultimately producing mosquitoes that have what's called a self-limiting gene. Only the male offspring can survive past an early stage. The boys, unlike their female counterparts, do not bite.
They run out of females to mate with, and that's how you bring the population down.
This week, Oxitec began the process of releasing 140,000 male eggs in 6 locations along the Keys. That is part of a live experiment greenlit by the EPA. Though some environmentalists are crying foul.
Genetic engineered organisms are not something that we can control. Evolution will find its own way.
This isn't disrupting anything within the environment naturally?
We haven't seen that, no, and we are targeting the Aedes aegypti that is invasive.
The company says similar projects in Brazil led to a 94% reduction of the targeted mosquito population and point out their research is peer-reviewed. Locally, residents buzzing about benefits and risks of unexpected consequences.
My gut feeling says it's probably not a good thing. We don't know enough about it.
The EPA says they conducted an extensive risk assessment based on the best available science and does not expect the trial to have adverse effects to animals in the environment.
Does this represent the potential for greatly reducing the amount of Zika or dengue fever that's prevalent in a community?
We hope so. That's why we're doing this.
The debate on this one's crystal clear here. Okay, so we know this is going on in Florida, Sam. Are they planning to bring this project anywhere else in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's the game plan, Hoda. And here's the thing. The mosquitoes only travel a few hundred yards, so this is very surgical. But if it works here, it can be exported to other places, not just to Florida, but across the world. This company, Oxitec, has used similar technology in places like Panama, Malaysia, Mexico, Brazil, as we mentioned. So it's been out there. They've used it for taking care of pests that destroy crops and now also disease.
Oh, and by the way, just in case you think that that we did not release genetically modified mosquitoes, you can go to Google and type in right here under the Centers for Disease Control Prevention. This is highlighted. I want to read this to you. The release of genetically modified mosquitoes is not intended to stop an ongoing disease outbreak. Instead, the GM mosquitoes are meant to, quote, help prevent disease outbreaks. Releasing GM mosquitoes over several months can reduce the number of a specific mosquito species. So again, they're not denying that they released these mosquitoes, because they did. These mosquitoes was released. And again, you can go search it. Here's another article, Smithsonian Magazine. Look at the headline here. First, this was back in April 21st of last year. First U.S. open air test of genetically modified mosquitoes was deemed a success. A private company that released genetically modified mosquitoes into the open air of the Florida Keys. Where was it released? In Florida. This was last spring. Let me say that again. A private company that released genetically modified mosquitoes in the open air of Florida Keys last spring says the experiment was a success, according to reports from Emily Waltz for Nature. The company has not yet published data from the experiment, but representatives said during a webinar earlier that month, back in April of last year, that the results were promising. Yeah, they're promising, all right. I'm just saying, you can't make this stuff up, guys. You can't make this stuff up. Then we have this article. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So we got, again, you guys that are watching, listening by Florida, come on, hit us up in the comments, hit us up in the forum, wherever you're watching from. Let us know what's going on down there. I don't live in Florida. I live one state above you. I live in Georgia. It's much more humid in Florida. You guys got mosquitoes down there that are like your state bird. They're too big for us, too many storms. I love Florida, I do. But I'm okay right here in the state of Georgia. But listen, let us know in Florida what's going on. Keep us up to date down there in the comment section. Here's another thing. I want to shift gears. Let's talk about the crazy heat. We know it's getting hot and it's getting hotter. But look at this. A new study is saying that Texas, among other states, could reach 125 degree temperatures within the next 30 years. Let's look at this article. Over the next 30 years, Texas and other parts of the central United States are at risk of being exposed to extreme heat. Those exceeding 125 degrees, the human body can no longer tolerate heat at that levels. This is according to a study published back in 2010, estimated that a web bulb temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit at 100% humidity or 115 degrees at 50% humidity would be the upper limit of safety beyond which the human body can no longer cool itself by evaporating sweat from the surface of the body to maintain a stable body core temperature. Now remember, I told you, and when you get over in the book of Revelation, this is a little bit past mid-tribulation. In the book of Revelation chapter 16, it tells you here that there's an angel that is pouring out a bowl upon the sun, and power was given to this angel to scorch men with fire. And it describes it right here in verse 9 of Revelation 16, that there will be great heat that will be poured out onto men. Now, again, you will say, well, Brother Ricky, it says it's an angel doing this. Yes, I understand that. But guys, you realize that we don't operate in the realm of eternity. We don't see angels and demons unless God lifts that veil from us. So angels are carrying out purposes and carrying out assignments on the earth all the time. But we don't see them, but we see the manifestation of those assignments. So we see in Revelation 16 that what we will experience are those that are here in the tribulation. They will experience the direct consequence of what this angel did by pouring out this bowl on the sun. And it says there will be great heat that will scorch mankind. And here you have this article. This was from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, but it echoes what other quote-unquote experts, scientists, and climatologists have all been saying. That we're going to continue going up this scale of this extreme heat and this extreme weather. According to a recent study, an extreme heat belt is forming through the middle of the U.S. Texas is a part of that extreme heat belt and an area of the U.S. highly vulnerable to extreme heat exposure, according to a report by the First Street Foundation, which is a climate assessment nonprofit organization. At least one day a year, there's a high likelihood that Texas will hit 125 degrees. The National Weather Service's extreme heat threshold, quote, "It's gotten hotter now than it was in the past, but we're not done with the increasing exposure to extreme heat." This is according to Jeremy Porter, who is the First Street's chief research officer, who told the Star-Telegram, quote, "It's going to continue to increase into the future." Now, guys, again, don't get so hung up on this climate change rhetoric. But no, again, biblically speaking, there's truth to this. I just showed you that in Revelation 16. It's coming. It will happen. In fact, heat of this magnitude has already been reported in parts of the world. A report in a British newspaper chronicled that it was like when temperatures soared to 126 degrees, reporting that it was too hot. You can't even stay on your feet, a resident of Pakistan told the Telegraph in 2021. Over the next 3 decades, this report indicated that Texas will see more triple-digit days, according to the research from First Street Foundation. Out of the 20 counties across the U.S. expected to experience the greatest number of days above this 100 degree annually, 16 of them are in Texas alone. 3 South Texas counties, Star, Zapata, I hope I did not pronounce that wrong. Forgive me if I did. And Brooks topped the list. Starr County is expected to see 109 triple-digit days in 2023, growing to 131 degrees by the year 2053. That's an increase of 22 days. Texas will continue to see temperature increases over the next 30 years, with Arkansas County and South Texas facing the largest increase in hot days between now and 2053. Now, if this isn't bad enough, if the heat's not bad enough for you, let's just put the icing on the cake, and that is we're now dealing with round 2 of the Canadian wildfire smoke that is now coming down into the United States. This week, smoke, this is from Zero Hedge. This week, smoke from Canadian wildfires has blanketed Chicago and much of the upper Midwest. By Wednesday morning, air quality warnings, now this was this past Wednesday, were in effect for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Rochester, New York, as the smoke had been blown into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast regions. After weeks of smoke relief, metro areas from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore to Philadelphia to New York City will receive another blast of toxic smoky haze from Canadian wildfires. On Tuesday, the governor, Kathy Hochul, said, quote, "We're expecting smoke and haze to come all across the state. However, the potential intensity of the smoke wasn't clear, but air quality maps tweeted by the governor this morning show unhealthy air quality in western New York, central New York, and the eastern Lake Ontario regions." And I want to show you this other headline here.
This could use some improving. Live pictures from our Southfield sky cam. Conditions not much better there. So what is in the smoke making it so dangerous?
Experts say it's a combination of factors, and the risks aren't limited to just our lungs.
When wildfires occur, they put a lot of pollution into the air.
That includes water vapor, harmful gases, and particles, says Dr. Maylon Han, chief of pulmonology at U of M Health.
And the thing we really worry about, though, from a health perspective, are the particle pollution. So those are really small bits of dust with other sort of nasty chemicals that get into the air. We breathe them in, and they can cause damage to our lungs and cardiovascular systems.
What's in those particles depends on what's burning and where they're traveling from. But this graphic shows why these particles are so dangerous. On the bottom is a grain of sand. In the middle, a human hair. The blue circle is a piece of dust. 4 of the fine particles in the smoke can fit across a single piece of dust. The smaller the particles, the easier they are to breathe in. Those particles can then travel deep into the lungs and can even enter the bloodstream.
These small particles actually get into the vascular system and can actually trigger heart attacks and strokes.
To reduce the risk, stay indoors as much as possible when the air quality is bad.
But if you can't and you absolutely have to go outside, trying not to exercise, keeping your activity to early mornings and late evenings can also help. And then finally, some patients may choose to wear a mask, but to really filter out those small particles, you'll need an N95 or an N95 style mask.
And experts say most wildfires put hundreds of chemicals into the air, and that particle pollution can trigger emergency room visits and even deaths up to thousands of miles away from the actual fire.
If you ask any longtime Metro Detroiter, they'll tell you they can't remember seeing anything like this.
This is from the Washington Post. This is what they said about it. Millions face a relentless summer of smoke that won't end anytime soon. According to the Post, in Detroit, where air pollution was so bad, it was worse than any other city in the world on Thursday. A basement coffee shop became a bunker from the smoke. One Washington summer camp forbade children from an outdoor pool and kept them inside. On a third straight day of heavy haze in Chicago, an improvement in air quality meant it was merely unhealthy to venture outside rather than very unhealthy. The latest disruptions made it all the more clear record-setting, out-of-control Canadian wildfires will not be put out anytime soon. Wow, guys. So you need it. Again, just keep this in mind. If you have upper respiratory issues, you have older people in your family, your grandmother, your parents, uncles, elders, elderly people, neighbors, you may want to know this. And this is interesting what they said here. The United States could be in for a summer of smoke. The number of people that are exposed is unprecedented. See, here we go. These terms in modern era. And let me say that again. The number of people that are exposed is unprecedented in modern era. This was according to Michael Wara, an energy and climate policy expert at Stanford University. Air quality alerts covered all parts of 23 U.S. states. I know here in Georgia, we're pretty far down south, and it's all over. I mean, we can see it. There's a haze in the air right now. I was out mowing my yard this morning, and you could see it. You can see the haze. Colorado, Vermont, Wisconsin, even Georgia. And while residents of western states have grown accustomed to adjusting their lives to the wildfire smoke, Easterners are still adapting to the reality that sooty skies can be a repeated hazard. How bad is it? Well, quote, the air quality is worse than Beijing. This is according to Liz Alford, 36 years of age, a federal worker who found refuge in coffee down under. Again, this was in Detroit. Look, here's a picture of this. This is in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. Here's another picture. This is from D.C. This is up in Washington. So again, you've got these unusual, unprecedented disasters, unusual pestilences, plagues. I'm telling you, keep your eye out for earthquakes, volcanoes, disruptions. In fact, I thought this was a very interesting article. Here's a piece from WFLA.com. Look at this headline, quote, off the charts. Earth's vital signs are going haywire. Now, if you're like me and you're a watchman, I translate that to Earth's vital signs are indicating the birth pangs are increasing. A chief meteorologist and climate specialist of 30 years of experience said that they have never observed so many of Earth's vital signs blinking red. Let me read that again. And a 30-year experience chief meteorologist said that they have never in their lifetime seen so many of Earth's vital signs blinking red. I'm going to read this. The steady trend of rising temperatures over the last few decades has placed Earth's baseline climate so high that achieving these extremes, which used to be rare if not unheard of, is now expected when conditions are ripe. And right now they are, with El Niños, added heat, and several other concurrent varying natural climate patterns. So to be more specific, quote, It's climate change. Again, don't get hung up on that with other natural patterns piled on top of it. With El Nino now in place, we are getting a glimpse of just how far we can force the climate system with never before observed heights achieved. Many more are on the way for 2023 and 2024 as El Nino gets stronger and more heat is released from the oceans into the atmosphere. Now, of course, these experts and these climatologists are so freaked out over this that the European Union is ready to take drastic measures. In fact, I want to show you this article from Bloomberg. This is from Bloomberg. Let me pull this up. Look at this headline. Quote, the EU looks into blocking out the sun as climate efforts are faltering. The European Union will join an international effort to assess whether large-scale interventions such as deflecting the sun's rays or changing the Earth's weather patterns are viable options for fighting climate change. Let me say that again. Blocking out the sun, portions of it, or, quote, changing Earth's weather patterns. That would be weather modification for us simpletons here.
As overuse and climate change threaten this national treasure.
But we are now learning about an innovative practice being used to help combat these effects and give Mother Nature a much needed boost. ABC Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z has more on that. Take a look.
The Colorado River, called the hardest working river in the United States, is in danger.
This is due to two causes: reductions in precipitation and increased air temperatures.
The river provides hydropower to 7 states, irrigation to more than 5 million acres of farmland, drinking water to 40 million Americans, and of course, the breathtaking whitewater rapids running through the Grand Canyon. All of it threatened by more than 2 decades in a megadrought. We can't just flip a switch like Colonel Joe Moore in Mad Max Fury Road. But we do have a superpower. Straight out of science fiction's X-Men: The Last Stand. It's called weather modification, or cloud seeding.
We can't create the cloud. There has to be an existing storm system.
We just give it a bump.
Yeah.
Garrett Kamens heads up one of the largest cloud seeding companies in the U.S. Has the desperation in the megadrought made the interest in cloud seeding skyrocket?
Oh, definitely.
There are currently 42 cloud seeding projects across the American West, like this one in Utah, where they take planes like this with flares attached. They fly right into the storm and send microscopic particles into the cloud. Particles that act like magnets for water droplets, bonding together until they are heavy enough to fall to the ground as rain or snow. At the University of Colorado, researchers are working on artificial intelligence to deploy cloud seeding drones.
And it's not just cloud seeding from the sky. There are hundreds of those things. That shack you see in the foreground is a ground-based cloud seeder. The little flame coming out is sending tiny silver iodide particles up into the sky. When a storm comes through, they go up to 2,000 feet above our head, into the storm, up those mountains, and make more snow than it naturally would.
While cloud seeding has been helping get every last drop out of some of the driest years on record, this past winter, Mother Nature came through. The Southern Rockies, which feed the Colorado River, got more than 4 times their average snow. But experts say it's still not enough.
As much as cloud seeding is a boost or a help, it's not a solution. The main solution is
Conservation.
cloud seeding is most successful in wet years, so this was a huge winter for them. They actually stopped early because Mother Nature was giving up so much. Now, studies have shown that the environmental impacts from the silver iodide, on the current scale, there are no impacts to snow or rain, also downstream, so it doesn't impact, the other weather. They do anticipate at least 200 more ground cloud seeders in the future, and the federal government has committed $2.6 million to seeding.
The bloc will announce a framework Wednesday for assessing the security implications of a rapidly warming planet, such as the potential for scarce water or food to trigger conflict and migration, according to a draft document seen by Bloomberg. Part of the assessment includes studying the potential dangers of re-engineering the atmosphere. Quote, these technologies introduce new risks to people and ecosystems, while they could also increase power imbalances between nations, spark conflicts, and raise a myriad of ethical, legal, governance, and political issues according to the document, which is, quote, subject to change. Embarking on this research pushes the EU into the debate over whether so-called climate geoengineering is good science or just science fiction distraction with potentially dangerous implications. Yeah, I'm probably going to go with the second part, which they said it will probably have dangerous implications for the planet and the atmosphere. I mean, when you're trying to alter and change and modify the weather and block out the sun, or like China and try to create your own sun, what could go wrong, right? But don't worry, guys, because the EU will support international efforts to assess comprehensively the risk and uncertainties of climate interventions, including solar radiation modification, according to the document. In other words, the EU knows what's best. Don't worry, all the experts are there, and they will never let you down, never fail. They will never do anything that would put us to risk. Now, this is what's interesting when you get all the way down to the bottom of this article. It's kind of like a product that you buy or that they try to sell you on television. Take this pill, get this cream, get this lotion, and we're guaranteed you're going to lose this weight. It's going to just fall off of you. It's just going to melt off of you. You don't have to exercise. You don't have to have discipline in your eating. You can drink whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to do any of this stuff. Just take the pill, and it's going to have promising results. And then you get all the way down to the when you start reading the disclosure of this stuff and you start reading the side effects of it in very, very small print, you get to the conclusion that no, thank you. I think I'll go the old-fashioned way about doing this. And this is what it's kind of like this with this article. You read all this stuff. They're talking about weather modification, blocking out the sun, the EU getting involved in this, and they're going to moderate this. But then you get down here. I want to read this to you. I'm going to highlight this. Critics say such efforts at best distract attention from addressing the primary trigger of global warming, rising emissions. Again, that's up to speculate there. And we could debate that all day. At worst, listen to this. These massive interventions may have unforeseen side effects, such as altering vital rain patterns, they warn. Really, I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be worse than that. Again, creating your own sun, blocking out the sun, modifying the weather, creating a large hadron collider to try to reinvent the Big Bang Theory in Switzerland. These crazy things that they're doing. They're gene splicing, taking animals of this kind and taking it with this kind, creating artificial wombs, creating embryos without the use of an egg or sperm. What are the side effects, guys? What is in the fine print of this? Here's where I want to leave you. The bottom line is this, guys. All of us as believers, along with creation, come on, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, the beast of the field, the plants, the trees, the vegetation, everything that the Lord our God created is, according to Romans 8, according to Paul's revelation, they are yearning and they are groaning, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the reconciliation, the redemption, the restoration. Just like we are in these earthly bodies and we are in anticipation for our eternal resurrected bodies where, come on, there'll be no more pain, there'll be no more sorrow, and every tear shall be wiped away. I'm telling you, listen, we're almost home. Come on, we're almost home. And I want to leave you with what Paul said in Romans 8:18. He said, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. Guys, I need you to hang on a little bit tighter, buckle your seatbelt. It's going to get bumpy. It's going to get crazy. It's going to be a rough ride. But I'm telling you, the finish line is just right down the road. It's right over the horizon. We got to endure. Jesus said, he that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. Don't be thrown off course. Don't lose your faith. Don't get hung up in fear and worry and concern and all this, because the upheaval of the earth, because of the sufferings of the earth, because of the crazy weather patterns, the crazy things that are happening, the disease, the plagues, the pestilence, all these things. Again, Luke 21:28, Jesus said, when you begin to see all these things, come on, you need to look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption is surely drawing near. Listen, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you. Again, please hit that like button. Wherever you're at, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook Live, wherever, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. I need you to do that. It pushes our content out there. If you've not downloaded our free app, get it on Apple, get it on Android, hit yes to push notifications, and you're good to go, and you will have notifications of everything that we put out, all of our content. Listen, guys, if you're blessed by our ministry, it informs you, it equips you, it encourages you on a week-to-week basis, I need you to pray about becoming a monthly partner. Why? Because everything we do is free. Our messages are free, our podcasts are free, our devotionals are free, our viewpoint segments are free. The app is free. Everything is free. We just ask you to, again, bookmark our website, download the app, and partner with us, because it's through your generous support and partnership we're able to continue to do what we do. Listen, there's two ways you can do that. You can give electronically by going to the app all the way to the bottom where it says donate. You can give there. Or you can give by check or money order. And you can do that at making it out to End Time Headlines right there on the screen, P.O. Box 1391. That's going to be Monroe, Georgia, 30655. As always, guys, thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast. It is Friday, so that means we're going to be off for the rest of the weekend. We'll be right back here, Lord willing, in the studio on Monday. I've already got some content lined up for next week, so I'm excited to get back with you guys on Monday. Until then, have a great, safe, and blessed weekend. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and may his countenance shine upon you. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Thank you for listening to the End Time Headlines podcast. We pray that you've been blessed and equipped by today's message. For more information about how you can help partner with our ministry, please visit endtimeheadlines.org.